Hello and welcome back to the channel. Minnesota Milling, coming to you from Medina, Minnesota here with our aerial drone coverage of our job at the job site. It's a live construction site, as you can see, and we got some cool updates for you. A log deck on your left there, and just a unique job that we had for this project here. So yeah, let's dive into this new update. We got a really cool log deck going on right here. What I did was, there's been a lot of customers around that basically they have a bobcat or some kind of heavy machinery, which is super helpful for the sawmill side of things without all the hydraulics and bells and whistles for my saw I haven't upgraded to yet. But what happens is sometimes they get a little too close to the mill, or the forks and the hydraulics are pretty powerful and they end up like bending the rails on the mill or breaking something accidentally, and then it's just this really awkward situation of, do I like tell the customer about it, because half the time they don't know because they're in the bobcat or something like that, or all of a sudden I end up with this, anything that breaks in the mill is going to be like $200 or more, like when it's all said and done, plus my time, probably even more expensive than that. And then basically my whole day of mobile milling is financially at a wash, and it's just like, oh man. So that's not good, and that can add up. So I was like, well, how do I make a way so customers can still use their bobcat? It can still save me time and energy. So one thing is, obviously I can just kind of coach the customer on how to use the bobcat so it doesn't mess the mill up. And one of the best ways to do that is to just have the bobcat with the forks, have the log hover over the sawmill, and then just tilt the forks down just slightly, not enough for the log to roll off of the forks, but easy enough for me to take the cant hook and do it myself, which would be no problem. And that way the forks never really are coming close to the bed of the sawmill or the bunks of the sawmill, and that's actually gonna work pretty well for the majority of customers. But there's also a fair amount of jobs like this one where we have a ton of logs. We're milling up logs. It's going to be several days of work, and the heavy machinery can be really like, if you get all these logs in a pile without hydraulics to flop a log on there, you got to go through the work of getting these logs up onto the mill, which either requires you to physically do it yourself from the ground up to the mill, which your back's not going to like, or if the case it's too big, you got to get the ramps out, you got to get the winch out. It's kind of this huge hassle. So there's a fair amount of jobs like this where the logs are kind of in a pile, and you don't want to have to individually get them up on the mill. So with my father-in-law, we devised this awesome, cool system of a log deck. Basic concept: a couple of giant beams, and supported by some 2x4s. Put the logs on top, and then you put the ramps for the sawmill spreading the gap, and you just roll the log right on. Super easy. The irony of this whole process is I thought of this, and at the time I didn't have any logs or lumber to mill the beams or 2x4s to do it, so I actually had to go to Home Depot and buy lumber. Honest to God, I couldn't believe I had to do that, but I did. And then upon later inspection on the farm, I did have the beams and the 2x4s laying around. I just couldn't find them in the right spot, which is how it goes. It's a lesson in staying organized. So yeah, so we're coming to you live from a new construction site being built in Medina, Minnesota. The business our customer is called Adams Pest Control. So big shout out to them, Adams Pest Control. If you have any pests that are in your home or causing chaos in your area, you can call these guys and they'll come out and get rid of them for you. That's their business. They've been extremely successful. They're expanding, obviously. This is their new construction site build. And like a lot of customers that are out there who are building or clearing land, they don't want to just scrap the trees and get rid of them and just turn them into firewood or something like that. They want to give these trees a second life, right? And I had a couple jobs like this last year, and this is, I think, the third one this year where a customer's been in this kind of similar boat. And it's really fun and exciting. You go on site and you get this log pile, and this customer here, Adams Pest Control, they had this really cool vision. They have this really awesome swamp and kind of like a bog, and they're like, a lot of our people in the office here, they want to go out and have a walk and take in the beautiful scenery during like a long day in the cubicle or in the office space. And so why not have a boardwalk? Obviously, you're not going to just trunch through like a swamp and get all nasty. But so they have a bunch of cedar that I'm milling up, and I'm milling it into about 1 inch, inch and a quarter thickness. And they're going to make a cool little boardwalk possibly out into that swamp bog area, which would be really kind of fun. They also had a ton of ash, as you know, all the ash trees are coming down with the evil emerald ash borer, those beetles there. So they had a bunch of ash, and I'm milling those into 1 inch boards that they'll probably plane down, sand down into 3/4 boards to use for paneling for either a ceiling or a wall in one of their office spaces, or 2 of their office spaces, maybe 3 because I milled a ton of it. And so we got that going on. We got the ash, we got the cedar, and then they had some really good healthy cherry, and so that was thicker, and so we milled those into 2.5 or 2.25 inch thick, 8/4 boards, planks, live edge for a really cool executive office table, kind of like a conference table as a centerpiece for their building. So that was really fun to be a part of. And so you can see us here live at the construction site with our, you always got to have safety in mind. You got to have your hat, hard hat, and reflector vest on. But yeah, this was a 2-day job. It was an absolute blast, other than the heat. Oh, the dadgum heat. That was nuts. Wearing all that stuff. But you know what? That's the job. And there's the fall. The fall is coming. So I just keep that in mind. But it's really helpful to have some extra help here. Big shout out to my friend. And we worked our butts off. And we got the job done. So this log deck here comes in super, super handy. And I actually, takes about 15 to 20 minutes to like set down or set up or tear down. So I actually transport it on the mill right on the log deck, and then I keep it in the shed when I'm not using it. But super easy to transport on and off site and set up and to tear down, and was a game changer for speed. And so that's kind of like getting me into my next effort here, as I'm looking at hydraulics this fall. Something like the log deck, something like hydraulics. This is going to speed up my time on site. And what I do is I charge a flat rate, $475 plus blades, $25 a blade. And that gets you 5 hours of milling, including my drive time. That's my go-to rate, because as I'm milling in the metro area of Minnesota, most customers don't understand board feet and like how much it costs for milling per board feet. Some do, but most have no idea what that means. And so I charge just a flat rate fee, then $75 an hour on top of that. But as I get to a point where I can become more efficient, I might want to transition to charging by board feet. So that's something I've been kicking around, trying to figure out as I'm moving towards being more efficient and just getting better at the trade and the craft in the future. So, and this log deck is definitely a part of that as well. So, but yeah, overall, can't speak highly enough of Adams Pest Control. I'm super excited for the new building to be built there. And it was a blast of a couple of days. So really fun updates going on with the channel. And we're trying out some new video editing software. So bear with me on that. And got some GoPros, so hopefully we got some better footage ahead as well. But this one's kind of cool. I'm going to let this video play for the next couple of minutes. So got some cool music and some more drone footage. That's kind of cool. And Vic mixing up the angles. So sit back, relax, and just enjoy.